Welcome to the Rocky and Meisty Show presented by Stool. Thank you for joining us, everyone. Let's get right into it.
You're completely missing the boat, Amr. You're at the wrong dock.
I'd have to say this. If he's looking to go to a new team, the last thing he wants to do is be like, oh, I'm not. No, he's got to show up. And he's got to show the Browns, you just lost $250 million by not playing, by not giving me that money. You're going to give it to him? Go for it.
This is crazy. Tyreek killed one of the Dolphins for 5 hits. Second to the division. Should we end the podcast now? I bet breaking news. Should we end it now? Now or later? Which one? I walk out right now. The division. Hear it first. Hear it me first.
That's asinine. You're crazy.
He's got the full package.
No way. I don't care. No way. I can't even. It's hard to even look at you right now when you say something like that. That's crazy.
We want to talk about legacy-defining plays and legacy-defining throws. 13 seconds, and you get the ball into field goal range. That is absolutely insane.
I'm going to be frank with you guys. Mitch Trubisky is not a good NFL quarterback. He has never been.
Okay, and guess what? In basketball, you use a basketball. In football, you use a football.
You ready? You ready, Aaron? Ready? Let's do it. All right, let's talk about some of the biggest headlines in the offseason. Rodgers, Carr, Lamar. For some reason, whenever the name Lamar is brought up, it tends to get clicks. So that's why we're going to talk about Lamar. No, I'm just kidding, because we like talking about Lamar. No, we don't just do things for clicks.
We want clicks.
If we just did things for clicks, then we'd do things a lot different. Let's just say that. But anyway,
hey, man.
How we feeling today, Meisty? How we doing?
Cannot complain. A beautiful day for football, actually. It'd be very nice outside. It is nice outside. By you, it's snowing. We switched weathers. The weather curse. Someone's traveling that shouldn't be traveling. You have to send them back. Tell them to take the weather with them. We'll send it back to you. I mean, the Ravens are in the heat for the offseason. It's been a while since we've had, a real Ravens focused offseason. It's more been like, yeah, could we get receivers? Nah. And then we just go into the next season with hoping that whoever our quarterback is can do it. So I'm excited. This offseason hopefully brings either new quarterback or a signed quarterback or something to Baltimore and maybe a receiver. So I'm just looking forward.
Yeah, same here. And we'll definitely get to Lamar a little more later. We've talked about him at length, as we'll continue to do. And it's ironic you talk about heat because there hasn't been much heat here. It has been quite to the colder side. In fact, there's a wind advisory here for the next few hours. So
what 5-mile-per-hour winds are coming?
No, it's actually quite windy outside. You got like a good 20-25-mile-per-hour wind, so it's pretty windy outside. Right, normally that's the way it works over here, right? It rains for 30 minutes, and all of a sudden everyone's oh my gosh, it's aerial flood warnings. Oh, the greatest thing happened last week. You sometimes get an Amber Alert when there's a flash flood warning. Sure. So it said life-threatening conditions. It is raining. Warning, it's raining, life-threatening conditions. Only on the West Coast that happens. Hilarious, because they're not so used to it here. And also the sewage systems, by the way, are not built for it. Like when it rains for an hour, there's like 5 inches of rain builds up already because it doesn't drain quickly. So, there's flooding, there's all that great stuff. But anyway, so, the weather will get back here soon. You have good weather here 10 months of the year. But let's get to some football here because we haven't discussed football in a while. It's been quite some time, and we got some big headlines. The Combine is here this week. I've been seeing a lot of podcasts have taken on the road, going to Radio Row at the Combine. There's some coaches there. It's not quite as popular as it used to be because not as many coaches go to the Combine. Brandon Staley, the head coach of the Chargers, was actually explaining why coaches don't go as much is because you can really get everything on film afterwards. You don't really have to go live, and this way you don't lose out on a whole week of OTAs and practices and whatever meetings with your team. So he said it's kind of worth it when you look at it like that. So, technology certainly changed the experience of the Combine.
I'll say most of these teams started just sending some scouts just to, like you said, most things going into the Combine. There are people that pop out to us at the Combine, but for the most part, and I try to watch most of the Combine, it's what you expect. This guy can do this. This guy can. Oh, he's very strong. He can lift. This guy's very fast. Okay. Then you pull up a defensive lineman comes and drops like a 4.5 40, and you're like, oh, well, he's fast. Whoa. And then his draft. So yeah, I mean, like you said, that you get that all on film the same way I watched it and be like, oh, he's interesting. It's the same way Brandon Staley can do it. So
Exactly, and that brings up an interesting point. How much weight do you put into what happens at the combine? It's a whole different discussion, obviously, but guy can have a great 40-yard dash and stink in the NFL, and vice versa can be true as well, right? So, it's all these different measures at the combine, and how much weight do you put into it? It's a difficult thing to balance.
The same way coaches stop showing up, the players themselves. Bryce Young doesn't plan to throw this year. He'll do other things, but he doesn't plan to throw the ball during the combine.
He's definitely gonna have to weigh in.
Yeah, no, it's like he'll hit the bench press and I'm a strong dude.
Exactly.
I can run a little quick or whatever. But like he doesn't plan to throw the ball because he's like, dude, I can throw the ball if you don't want to see me. Because he's in a lose-lose situation. If he throws a bad throw, they'll be like, he's not good. If he throws perfect, well, he's already projected as the first quarterback off the board. So he can't. He can only hurt himself at this point. Yeah. It's very, but. I don't like either way. I think coaches should be there. I think the old way of they used to interrogate the players, and I loved that. I thought that was great back in the day. I thought that was hilarious. Bill Belichick asking the most absurd questions. Doesn't get better than that. But
can't be the Bill Belichick interrogation. It's advancement of technology. You're right, Meisty. There's something to that old-fashioned way, but there's something to the new modern advanced way as well. And the fact that teams can more focus on their performance for next year and the players for next year and free agency. It makes it for some more fun contract negotiations and calculations as it comes to that. And speaking of free agency, we have a few intriguing names in terms of the quarterback position, which you don't have, right? To have three guys of this caliber at free agents. With potential free agents, at least, is interesting. So, number one, we'll start with Aaron Rodgers, who is, 35 years old at this point? How old is Aaron Rodgers? 35?
Discount double check.
Discount double check. He was born in 83. How old does that make him?
36, no? 37 at this point?
Born in 83 or in 2023? What? He's not born in 83. What am I talking about? That doesn't make any sense. Anyway, I don't know how old he is. But wait a second. If he's born in 83,
he's 39.
He's 39. Yeah, he's 39. Exactly.
You're right. He was born in 83.
He was born in 83. Yeah, he's born in December 83, so that means he's 39. So if he's 39, which team you would have to imagine that the team that is going to get him is in win now mode. That's it. Rodgers did not have a particularly good year last year. People love to say hate on Brady last year, but Rodgers wasn't great last year either, right? I mean, according to PFF, 75.9 passing grade, it was by far the worst for him in a good 5 years. So Rodgers is the type of guy that we look at his performance on the field and we think this is one of the most talented players ever, right? Most people that have been following football for 2 decades Aaron Rodgers is one of the best quarterbacks I've ever seen.
Sure.
And that's about how long we've been following him for, and he's been at the top of the league for so long. But they've had concerns about, I don't necessarily fault them for this per se, personally, but they've had concerns about, he hasn't made a Super Bowl in a decade, and he hasn't had success in the playoffs. But here he is at the end of his career, and all the only value that it really adds to a team is winning them a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Because the only team that's really going to sign him is a team that feels that with an Aaron Rodgers for the next year or two, they can win a Super Bowl. So which team do you think that is, Meisty?
First of all, before I even say the team, let's just talk Aaron Rodgers. There's only one quarterback in the league today. Time out. Let me think about that real quick. Yes, there's only one quarterback in the league today that I picked before Rodgers. When it comes to just this year, upcoming season, I need a quarterback. There's Mahomes, and I'm going Rodgers number 2. I don't know. I don't care about whoever you want. I don't care. You can name any quarterback. Justin Herbert. You can give me Deshaun Watson even. You can name me Eli Manning. I don't care. The bottom line is number 2 right now is Aaron Rodgers, and that's it. There's no other person I take. So with that being said, any team needing a quarterback and looking to win this year, he's your guy. The Jets are looking to win. The Jets have the perfect defense. The Jets have receivers. The Jets have a great running team. Running. What's the word I'm looking for? Well, they have good running backs. A running game. Yeah. If the Jets don't sign Aaron Rodgers, what are they doing? I don't care the cost. You have the space for it. You're talking about 1 year, go for it. And there is no better year for them than this upcoming year to try and take their division. Yes, the Bills are there, but the Patriots are just the Patriots, and you just have to pat. That's not hard. And the Dolphins have their own mess right now. So they don't even have a quarterback, the Dolphins. So you're a quarterback shy, and you don't either. But the Jets just get Aaron Rodgers right now, and he just has to play 70% of what he used to be. And they would be insane because the receivers are so good. The running game is so good. The defense will hold you to 15 points a game or 18 points a game or whatever it is. I don't know why they haven't signed him yet. I don't know what they're waiting for.
The question
Jets
is,
need to make a move.
the Jets have been thrown around, have been associated with Rodgers since the beginning of the offseason, since before the offseason started. The question is, are there any other teams that you would consider? So one team I would look at is, if I'm Rodgers and I'm looking at this from a perspective of I want one more ring before I get out of this league, I want to go to a bad division, and the worst division in football is the NFC South. Go to the Bucs. They still have a great roster there. Not a great roster, but they still have a pretty good roster there. And, you're going to play against the Panthers, Saints, and Falcons who just released Mariota. We don't know what's going to be there, what Desmond Ridder is going to start the entire year. I mean, that's going to be a disaster, right? So you have three really below average teams in that division. Now you're able to go to the Bucs. Mike Evans is still there. You still have weapons there. So at the end of the day, the offensive line, Tristan Wirfs will come back next year. You'll have hopefully the team will be healthier as a whole. Last year, like I mentioned, going into the season, the Bucs probably had a top 5 roster in football. Like you looked at best rosters in football, and you're like, the Bucs might be the best roster in football. Didn't pan out for them. Part of that was Brady, part of that was the system, part of that was the receivers being injured and not playing as well, miscommunication. Fine, but bring Rodgers in against a bad division, win 10 games. You have an easy route to the playoffs. Worry about making the playoffs first, because Rodgers and the Packers didn't make the playoffs this year. Now, not all that was Rodgers. They didn't really surround him with too much talent at the receiver position. But at the end of the day, if you put yourself in the best position to make the playoffs, that's step 1. Now let's get to step 2 and try to make a Super Bowl. So I would look at one of those NFC South teams. I would.
Right. So before you talk about the Buccaneers, I'm sorry to just destroy everything. The Buccaneers, unless Aaron Rodgers wants to play for free, the Buccaneers are minus $58 million in salary cap right now.
Right.
They are dead last. They are dead last in salary cap. So they don't have the money to pay a guy like Aaron Rodgers. Now, you want to talk about a team that does have the money to pay Aaron Rodgers. I would go with the Las Vegas Raiders. They have no quarterback right now. The division is tough. But the money is there for him. You're saying he has to go to you're talking about easy divisions? I mean, even the Titans he can go to. I mean, the Titans are just a team that they have Ryan Tannehill. He can always see if the Patriots or Commanders want him. Those are two good teams. The Dolphins are available, but the last team I really see is the Buccaneers. Everyone else to me is like I mean, the Dolphins are a great team. They have okay defense, a little overrated last year, but they started off strong and their offense is obviously high powered. Imagine Aaron Rodgers with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. I mean, it would be insane. You're talking about a really good team. So
maybe the Bucs don't have the cap situation. You're right about that. But what about the Saints? So you go to the Saints. You have Chris Olave. You have Alvin Kamara. You have good playmakers there, right? The Saints also have a pretty solid roster, upper echelon defense, top 15 defense. So you can put yourself in that position. Now the Bucs don't have a quarterback. You're competing against 3 pretty darn bad teams. That puts you in a pretty good position.
Okay, so ready? The number 1 team, the number 32 team in salary cap space, Buccaneers. The second to
31 is the Saints. Yeah, no, but the Saints. I'm not worried about the Saints salary cap because they always apparently
they always figure out it's been the Saints.
They clear up like $100 million in salary by the time free agency starts. It's like something ridiculous. The whole thing with the Taysom Hill thing was that he signed for like $140 million deal, but they're not actually paying him even half of that. So
the Texans. Why didn't the Texans have the money and then they don't have to go and get. I mean, even if you want to draft a quarterback, the guy plays under Rodgers for a year. It's not the worst thing in the world. I don't care if it's Bryce Young or anyone. Let him play under Rodgers for a year. When Rodgers is so old and he can't play and he's playing horrible, guess who you have sitting on your bench? Your future. So you pay the guy. You have the money. It's not like the Texans don't have the money. Hopefully some receiver goes, Rodgers to the Texans. I'll go to the Texans. Get some receivers brought in for your future. Your defense gets built. You can draft. You can draft whoever you want, whether it's a quarterback, whether it's a receiver, whether it's a defender. You start to build. You're talking about a bad division. That's a horrible division. Colts, Texans. Who's it? Colts, Texans, Jaguars are going to win the division next year. Like,
I mean, once it's a bidding war, the Bears will outbid anyone, right? In terms of how much salary cap they have. And if you're going to talk about bad teams in a bidding war, the Bears have Justin.
The Bears are not a bad team. That's the crazy part about the Bears.
They are. They're really bad. They have holes at every single position, literally.
Besides quarterback.
Even quarterback, I would argue.
Stop it. Don't push Justin. Don't push the guys. The guy is. He would have broken all of Lamar's records this past year if he didn't get hurt.
Well, I said some controversial. I know I said some controversial things this week, but I don't think Justin Fields has proved that much so far. I think
he has not proven anything. But
I think all he's proved
is anything. And
first of all, Lamar in his second year. If you want to go to Lamar, and I made a very critical comment about Lamar, and I've been very critical of Lamar. But Lamar in his second year came out and made an incredible leap as a passer. Sixth best passer in the league according to PFF. I pointed out, top 10 in big time throws, really limited to turnover worthy plays. He was able to throw on the run in the pocket, progressing through his reads. That second year in 2019, not only was his rushing ability not compromised, it was just as dangerous, but his passing game was ready. He was did he lead the league in passing touchdowns that year? He was close to the top of the league. So at the end of the day, Lamar took an incredible leap in his second year, and then he came back down to earth. But Justin Fields did not even take that leap. So maybe he'll take that leap again this year, maybe. But until he does that, I'm not necessarily putting all my bread into that basket. Is all I'm saying.
It's a hope for the Bears is that he takes some type of leap. He's proven that he's very good. He is very good. He doesn't make stupid decisions. He's smart with the football. So I like Justin Fields. Like you said, he has not proven anything. He's a young guy with no experience, with a team that's not really helping him out much. But they plug those holes. They have a lot of draft picks. They have a lot of salary cap. They should be using almost all of the salary cap at this point to try to build their team for the future and go with it. But back to Aaron Rodgers. Honestly, the Detroit Lions should sign Aaron Rodgers.
Right. I was thinking that. Yeah, that's interesting.
Any team that's we talked about it. Any team that there's so many teams that are quarterback shy. There's a lot of them. I think
that's also not a good division.
Who? The Lions, Packers, Bears, Bears, Vikings. Yeah, the Vikings we're probably not going to make the playoffs next year. Oh my God, I can't believe I just said that.
I know after last year, I'm going nuts on you thinking they'll win the division, and then right. But you're right. You know why?
That's how it goes.
That's the Vikings. It's 10 games that they won by 3 points and could have gone this, and 1 year went this way, so therefore they lost 7-8 games, and 1 year went that way, so they won 11 games. That's really the Vikings. It's such a thing.
The Bears started 2-0. And you thought they would win one more at least.
Right.
Nope.
Exactly. Well, they won one more. That was it, right? They ended 3-14, I think.
All right, 3-14. Right, 3-14.
So to put a bow on this Rodgers discussion, if you were to predict, we've put out a lot of possibilities on the table here. If you were going to predict one team, who would it be?
So I'm gonna go. Are we taking the Jets off the table for this, or can I say the Jets?
No, absolutely. That's the team.
The Jets to me are the obvious choice. With no quarterback and a team around him, it's insane. I mean, it would be the most Jets thing possible to not sign Aaron Rodgers.
I think that the Jets are going to get Rodgers too, but I don't think it's going to go as well as they want it to go. Just because
100%.
Yeah, I don't think they'll even reach the Super Bowl with Rodgers. That's what I'm going to say over here.
But they'll be in the playoffs. I can tell you they'll be in the playoffs.
I can buy that as a wild card. I still don't think they're going to win the division over the Bills, but I can buy them sneaking in especially with 7 wild cards. But with 7 spots. But I don't think that the Jets will get Rodgers. They have a great roster. Don't get me wrong, but I think Rodgers. He's a great player. He's 40 years old. Very few players are good after 40, like Brady. Like he was the only one that's good. That was good after 40.
He's so good. He's one of the best of all time.
Very good. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying he's not good anymore, but it's similar to the Russell Wilson thing, where Russell Wilson, once he had the injury and he started on the decline much earlier than Rodgers, much younger. But once he started to go on that trajectory, I had a feeling it would continue, and so far it has. For Rodgers, I have a feeling it's going to continue. It's not going to continue as steep as it has with Wilson, but he'll still be solid, still be a top 10 quarterback. But I'm not looking at Rodgers as one of the best quarterbacks in the league anymore. That's the problem, and that's what the Jets think that they need.
The difference between Rodgers and Russell Wilson is that Russell Wilson didn't do mushrooms and LSD, and Aaron Rodgers is doing ayahuasca and tripping shrooms during. So I mean, maybe these are helping him. But I will say this: correct, it's probably not going to go the way they won't win the division. But Aaron Rodgers and we hope and assume that he plays a full 17 games. That's 9-10 wins. That is 10-11 wins. You pending the Patriots, pending Miami, because if you can sweep those games, those are big games to win. If you can steal one from the Bills, which they have, so you can steal one from the Bills, and then it's like, oh my gosh, we're right here. We're fighting for a spot. So once again, it comes down to what Miami decides to do. The Patriots are in the worst situation I've ever seen a team be in, because they don't have a quarterback, but they have a guy who can play quarterback. Yeah. They have a coach who's ready to walk, and at any second he's going to be out the door, and they're going to be out with no GM, no coach, no offensive coordinator, no defensive coordinator, and Bill Belichick's son running the team. So that's where the Patriots are holding.
Yeah,
I'm excited, but the same thing. Derek Carr is very much tied to the Jets right now. Where does Derek Carr go, Rocky?
Right, so that's a good transition. Something's telling me that the Jets are going to get someone else who we'll mention later. But as far as Derek Carr goes, I think Derek Carr is going to largely depend on where the other dominoes fall in the league, right? Derek Carr is not one of those players that someone's going to look at, and he's sort of that middle ground. Nobody's going to look at Derek Carr and be like, he's our franchise quarterback. The Jets aren't going to look at Derek Carr and be like, we're a Derek Carr away from a Super Bowl. Maybe they will. Derek Carr has proved he's had 2 really good years this year. Meisty mentioned before the podcast, he had an MVP caliber year in 2016. The Raiders were 12-4 and made the playoffs, and he's had some really top-notch years this year. But if you look at Derek Carr throughout his career, he's in the 10 to 12 range in terms of in terms of quarterbacks, 10 to 12 range. Matthew Stafford, same thing as Matthew Stafford. So there is what to say that Flacco's a whole other world. He's a whole other thing in himself.
It's on the verge of eliteness.
He's very different. No. Carr is very different than Flacco. Flacco was like, he stunk, and then it got to the fourth quarter of the playoffs, and he was Joe Montana. Like, that's what it was. Derek Carr is just sometimes good, sometimes bad. Fourth quarter, first quarter, doesn't matter, you know?
Sometimes maybe she...
That's what it is. So, and we were all excited. I mean, not we were all excited. We still thought that the Raiders would go under their over-under win total 8.5. We both predicted that. But we were like, but this is going to be a good team, right? You have Derek Carr, you have Devontae Adams, you have Darren Waller, you have a lot of good pieces there. But the defense was not good, right? Even with Josh Jacobs emerging and the running game being top-notch, still, the defense was not good, and they did not have a lot of success. Even though Devontae Adams had a great year, Meisty. Fantastic year. So that concerns me. Now, I think if you surround Derek Carr with a great roster, he's not that old yet, so you can surround him with a great roster, then perhaps the team can be one quarterback away. Just like Matthew Stafford. The Rams said, we don't need Aaron Rodgers. We don't need Tom Brady. We need a Matthew Stafford, and then let's get Von Miller. Let's get OBJ. Let's have a really good roster. Even if we're going to stink for the next 5 years, we're going to put all of our chips in this 1 year, and it paid off for them. Most of the time it doesn't, but they were fortunate, and it did. So a team can look at it like that and be like, let's put ourselves in the same situation as the Rams did with Matthew Stafford. But you have to realize that you're going to have to sacrifice a bunch of years in the future.
So speaking of the Rams, first of all, the Rams were a super lucky situation. Not only did everything fall into they don't have a fan base. So no one's going to be angry now for the next 7 years that they stink. No one's going to care. No, that's the truth, because they don't have fans. Who's a Rams fan? They live in St. Louis, most of their fans.
Yeah, there aren't many.
There aren't many real fans. Yeah, they wear the jersey because it's a good-looking jersey, but it's not. So for me, though, talking Derek Carr, bringing it back there, I happen to think you're wrong about it's just going to fall. The dominoes are going to fall, and that's where he's going to end up. I think he's the first quarterback signed. I think the Saints are going to just grab him for a dirt cheap price and be like, deal of the century.
Why the Saints?
Because the Jets are going to be chasing Aaron Rodgers. And you know what's going to, and this is how the Jets get screwed. Because Rodgers is like, screw you, Jets. Carr's already signed with the Saints. He's already here. Rodgers goes somewhere else, and everyone else is out the door, and the Jets are just hands up. Zach Wilson starting quarterback. So, by the way,
that's not. See, if the Jets get desperate, they'll trade for Lamar. But Derek Carr, what price is Derek Carr worth? Right, like Derek Carr, the last 2 years, 41 big time throws and 37 big time throws. But then this year,
$35 million a year. 30.
That's what you're saying. 35. Okay, this year, 21 big time throws, 19 turnover away plays. Not a good year for Derek Carr by any means. Not a good year. But you got to remember, this is not. This year is an anomaly for Derek Carr. He has generally been a much better quarterback than he showed this year. He's an above-average quarterback and above-average pocket passer. He doesn't add the value as a rusher that most quarterbacks do nowadays. But that is valuable. So again, a team that already has receivers, he's not going to come in and be your franchise. So if you don't have a good roster, don't waste your time. Just don't waste your time. It's not worth it. But if you already have two playmakers, you don't need Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, but have two playmakers, yeah. You could have a Garrett Wilson, and add another receiver there, and all of a sudden the Jets have two playmakers. Fine. But, if you have two playmakers, a great defense like the Jets do, I can see the Jets doing it. The problem is I can see the Jets going in a million different directions.
See, here's the thing. The Jets just have to see. If I'm the Jets, I bring in Aaron Rodgers and Derek Carr, and I sit them both down and say, dude, whoever wants to play for us, stay. Whoever doesn't want to play, go. Like, just have it out right here, right now, big. One of you are signing with us for, X amount. Like, here's amount. You happy? No, leave. One of them will stick around and stay. But speaking of Jets quarterbacks, Joe Flacco, because we mentioned him, I think he's retiring. I think he retired. He just didn't tell anyone. His contract's up. He's just going to walk. We're just going to let Joe Flacco go without getting a hero's honor. And Baltimore should sign him for one day. We should be a national holiday here in Baltimore for Joe Flacco. He's a Super Bowl winner.
He's definitely going to retire as a Raven. Chad Henne, underratedly, retired a champion a couple weeks ago. Right after the Chiefs won, he announced his retirement. By the way, a pretty imperative part to both their Super Bowl runs. I'm just saying.
I know. It's true.
Underrated.
Played in both seasons and played big plays in both of them. Listen, this is we're coming up on that time of the year where between March Madness and then all of a sudden you're watching March Madness and also on the corner or on the bottom it's like blank got signed.
Right.
Let's go. You're just excited because you got football, baseball, everything going at once. So
XFL?
Yeah, I not really.
I enjoy it. I actually enjoy it. I'll tell you why I enjoy it. I love the transparency.
Yeah.
I don't know, Morty. Have you watched the XFL? If you're,
I'm pretty occupied with hockey right now.
Interesting. So I was just curious if anyone's been watching and seeing the process. It's very interesting. They're very transparent in the way that the officiating occurs. So everything that's happening upstairs and on the field, you can hear all the communication between the refs on the field and the refs upstairs, and the calls are overturned in 30 seconds. Dean Blandino's upstairs. He calls everything. You've seen it, Meisty, right? So I love that. I love how fun it is where you can be down by 9 and still a one-possession game because you can do a 3-point conversion. 4th and 15, that if you're down by 15, right, with 2 minutes left, you still have a chance because you can do 4th and 15 and convert instead of an onside kick. I like that stuff. Being that it's not the NFL and we can get a little more shticky with it, I like the direction they've gone. So I actually find it quite entertaining. But anyway, yes, I agree. March Madness, so many fun things.
So I watched when I'm at the gym on Sundays. I'll watch the XFL when it's on. But I never really sat down to watch. But I paid attention to the rules. And the issue I have, the only issue I have with the XFL, and I hope it gets super popular. But I keep hearing an echo.
I'm an echo.
Yeah, I heard an echo off my own voice. I was like, ooh. But no, it's good. It's good.
What are you getting it from me or you? From me or you?
It's coming from Rocky.
It's coming from me. Okay.
Cut this out. No. My big issue with the XFL would be is that if it gets too popular, the NFL starts taking on their rules because let's say oh yeah, 3-point conversion, and you're like. The NFL's like, oh, that's such a great idea. No. Keep the NFL as is. If anything, let's go back to more traditional NFL rules. and that's so. As long as the XFL and the NFL, they can be a working group. That's fine. But as long as the NFL stays here and the XFL stays here, and the rules don't come over from the XFL to the NFL, I'm 100% okay with the XFL. I love it. Football in during this time of the year is great, but. Listen, people love it. It's from what I read about it and people talking about the XFL, they love it. The guys that play in these games are players that didn't do well in the NFL or players that people loved in college that were like their favorite college players, and now they get a chance to be, a spotlight. So I like it. And hey, we've had two or three guys that came from the XFL to the NFL now who've had pretty successful years and been pretty good players. So if it can develop players to be better players and make it to the NFL and we have better talent in the NFL, 100%. I'm a big fan of the XFL. Now, we won't do podcasts on it, but that's about as much.
No, well, The Rock, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, his objective of the league was, the fact that his dream was always to play in the NFL, and he played for the Miami Hurricanes in the 90s, and he didn't get drafted. He got passed up by, all 7 rounds went by. He didn't get drafted. So this is sort of his, he wants to give these players a second chance that he never had to get back into the NFL and to make their
real
dreams.
Mystery relevance.
The mystery relevance. To give the mystery make the mystery relevance relevant once again. Exactly. Brock Purdy.
Brock Purdy leading the way.
Exactly. Brock showing what Mr. Irrelevance can do.
The XFL logo should be Brock Purdy, even though he never played.
I like that. Do you still getting an echo?
No. It's good.
Okay,
now.
we're good. Okay, another thing you might see on the bottom of your screen when you're watching March Madness is Lamar Jackson has been traded to the New York Jets. I'm just kidding. So, listen, the question is, how many teams? So we've discussed a lot about why the Ravens should trade Lamar, or why the Ravens shouldn't sign Lamar, or what they should do with him. But realistically, if we put this into play, in terms of I think there will be an incredible interest if he tests the open market. Meaning, if the Ravens want to say Lamar is open to be traded, they put the exclusive tag on him. He gets paid $45 million, and now they can test the market. So then what happens then? I think you're looking at a dozen teams that will trade for Lamar Jackson, Meisty. That's what I think.
It seems that way, but from what we understand, and you know how the Ravens, they never tell us anything. They've been always very good at that. They've been great. I think it's awesome because as fans, you have so much more to talk about because when the team is so transparent with you, you just know. You just know what's going on with the team. And the Ravens, you have no clue if they're going to sign this guy, trade Lamar, decide to shut down the whole team, maybe move to Indianapolis. I don't know what the Ravens are going to do. But I will say this, and so it helps with that, gives us stuff to talk about. But the Ravens, I just lost my thought there. But
okay, well, we'll try when you try to regain your thought. I can think of a few possible destinations for Lamar, right? And the way I look at it, so it's funny. Nick Wright, you can look at his. He has a show on Fox Sports. I forgot what it's called. Anyway, so he broke down like 4 potential trades for Lamar Jackson, 5 potential trades for Lamar Jackson. Pretty much, he was saying like, okay, if the Texans want to trade for him, then since they're going to have to give up a number 2 overall pick, therefore the Ravens are going to get their next future quarterback, right? So they only have to give up like another first-round pick and a second round pick. However, if a team like the Jets trades for him, they might have to trade like 4 first-round picks because the Ravens aren't going to be able to draft a quarterback in the teens, right? Even if you want Anthony Richardson, Will Levis, Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, those are the big 4 this year, right? So if you want one of those big 4 guys, assuming you're going to have to pick in the top 10. So if you trade with the Jets, you're not going to be able to get that. So the way I'm looking at it is the team's either going to have to give up a pick high enough to draft the quarterback and maybe 1 or 2 other first-round picks, or a pick not high enough to draft the quarterback and 4 first-round picks. And if I'm the Ravens, I am doing that all day. If the team's willing to do that.
Okay.
I'm doing that all day.
So I hear. I have a different approach to this. See, I don't need the top 4. If you can find a 5th quarterback, we can call him, right? And be like, we want him. Yeah? This guy, we found him. This is our future, right? It's not from the top 4. It's not from this. It's just a guy, whether he's from the UCLA or I don't know off the hand all the quarterbacks under the top 4.
That's what people have been saying. Stetson Bennett.
A Stetson Bennett guy. Well, we just signed his offensive coordinator, so maybe. But let's say, and Stetson Bennett, you might be able to get in the second round.
He's been linked to the Ravens. He's been RG3 predicted. He said on Twitter or on some show that he thinks the Ravens are going to get him as a replacement for Lamar Jackson.
But who's RG3? But
it's a prediction like anything else. But I could hear it happening. It does logically make sense.
But I'll say it like this: if I'm the Ravens, I'm not looking into the top 4. I'm looking. Because if you go to the top 4, you don't get as much. But if you go and trade Lamar Jackson for the 11th pick, the 12th pick, the 13th pick in that area, you say to the team, hey, you're only giving us the 11th pick. You want 3 first-rounders, 2 second-rounders, that player, and your dog. And they'll give it to you because, that's that's what you get. That's Lamar Jackson. But you say there's a lot of teams that want him. But I was trying to say, this was my thought where I lost when I was talking about the Ravens not being transparent with us, is what it sounds like is no one's really offering the Ravens anything close to what the Ravens want for him. So in my opinion, at the end of all of it, the Ravens are just going to have to stick with him because no one wants him. Not that because no one wants him because he's not good. No one wants him because he's very expensive. He's very injury prone, and there are better options right now. So he's the one who will wait for all the dominoes to fall, and then after Carr is signed, after this guy is signed, now you're like, oh, because who are you really going to take? Rodgers or you're going to take Lamar? And I spoke to every single Jets fan that I know, and I all got the same Rodgers answer. Anyone that I know they're picking Rodgers, so they're not going after Lamar right now. They're not even these teams. Any team that's quarterback needed is not going after Lamar right now. When Aaron Rodgers is sitting there and Derek Carr is $30 million cheaper, $20 million cheaper.
The only reason I don't think there's been interest in Lamar is because the market has not been opened for him yet. The franchise, the tag
open for a couple years.
No, not the Ravens have never tested the open market with him. Once they do, I mean, you could be right that there'll be no interest, but my bet is that there will be a team desperate enough to sign him to $200 million plus and trade 4 first-round picks for him because you have a guy of the. This goes back to our. What is the essence of your team? What is the goal as a franchise? Is your goal to win a Super Bowl, or is your goal to be in contention, to give your fans a reason to go to the stadium every week, to give your fans a reason to watch the game every week? If your goal is the latter, you are giving up the house for Lamar Jackson because he is exciting. You will bring fans to the stadium, and you will win a few games every year, and you'll have some playoff appearances with him. Will you win a Super Bowl? Good chance you won't. Good chance you won't. But if your objective is to bring fans to the stadium, make it exciting, make football exciting in your town, then guess what? Lamar Jackson is exactly what you need. And my bet is that there are multiple teams that have that objective in mind and would love nothing more than to have a guy who's considered a top 5 quarterback in the league. I mean, when you look at how the narrative on Lamar Jackson right now, it's this: we've never had a guy of this caliber and this talent, a free agent, hit the open market. It's never, and this young. It's never happened. I don't think he's as good as people think he is. But if you do, it does seem like most teams and executives think he is as good as people think he is. If that's the case, then they'll sign him to a huge contract. Even though the Deshaun Watson thing is sort of messing over the market for him, no question, because now he has that leverage. But there is a team that will be willing to pay a lot more than the Ravens. That's all I'll say. And trade 4 first-round picks.
Yeah, because the Ravens don't like to pay. But once again, so I just looked at March 15th, free agency, and all the trades can start happening and everything. So we'll see in 14 days from now exactly that. But the question is, will it happen like that? Who has the contracts already written up? Those are my favorite. You're like, oh, you're not allowed to talk to each other. Right. March 15th and 4 p.m., 4:01, Aaron Rodgers signed, Derek Carr signed, Lamar traded. You're like, what? No, see, here's the thing. ADC and Harbaugh right now in Indy, and they if they're not sitting down with every team there pretty much and being like, what's the offer? They're crazy. Yeah. So the market's being tested, and we don't hear anything from insiders because the Ravens don't tell us anything. So we really don't know. We're really out of it. I'll say like this about making the playoffs, Super Bowl wins, and everything. If you're a team that just made the playoffs, you're not looking to just be in contention next year. You're looking to make the Super Bowl. Whether you win or lose, that's a whole separate thing. That's one game. Anything can happen in the Super Bowl. We've seen craziest things. You're looking to make the Super Bowl. Unless you're the Bills, you're not looking to lose the Super Bowl. If you miss the playoffs, you're looking to put fans in the seats and make the playoffs. Lamar Jackson is exactly that. He will make the playoffs if he plays 17 games. Not only will he might even win your division. He might even be a top 3 team in the conference because of Lamar Jackson. Yeah. Purely because of Lamar Jackson's ability to just be Lamar Jackson.
They're running at the level that he does.
The ultimate question is this. And after this question, I can live happily ever after. Does Tyler Huntley get traded with Lamar Jackson? How long after Lamar Jackson goes does Tyler Huntley follow him? Where is Tyler Huntley next year? Pro Bowler, mind you, Pro Bowler Tyler Huntley, Snoop Huntley.
And with that, what do the Ravens do if they do move on from Lamar Jackson, right? Do they keep Tyler Huntley? But he's not going to be the starting quarterback, so who will be? I mean, people on Twitter love to say, like, I love you guys, but I love Tyler Huntley, but you know, they look, they've been, you know, they're 7-8 with him as a starter, whatever they are, right? But yeah, well, Tyler Huntley's not going to be a starting quarterback next year. Not a chance. Ain't going to go into the season with Tyler Huntley as a starting quarterback. It's not happening. They'll sign someone, they'll draft someone. It's not going to happen. But
you have. It depends. Listen, it depends what you get for Lamar Jackson. Because at the end of the day, if you trade Lamar Jackson to a team that doesn't have a quarterback right now, but they have a receiver that you're like, we'll take your receiver, fine. But if you're looking to trade for a quarterback, I think the worst thing the Ravens can do is trade Lamar Jackson for a quarterback. I think that is the dumbest thing.
Don't do that. Yes.
Like, what are you doing? Unless you're trading for Mahomes, or if you're trading for Trevor Lawrence or Justin Herbert, or
but you're not.
And I don't mean, by the way,
yeah,
won't take me that I said Trevor Lawrence over Lamar Jackson. I'm not saying that, but if you're doing that trade, because the Jacksonville has tons of things going on there, they got a lot going on by them. So you know. I agree. Where do you move? It depends what you get for Lamar Jackson. Do you bring Stetson Bennett and just hope the guy can just walk you, just be Stetson Bennett and not? And I mean, he's good. He's not bad. He's just older, which isn't a bad thing to me. Like, he's technically in his prime right now. So why wouldn't you want a guy in his prime? Because he's on the college level in his prime. Can he transform? Can he transition that? It would be sick. I think he's the answer, in my opinion, because you have an offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
You have a defense. He just needs to not turn the ball over. It's Trent Dilfer's type style football. Like, just don't turn the ball over, and Stetson, you'll win a Super Bowl. Just
I think it's a little more difficult than that if you don't have receivers. The Ravens go a lot of different directions. Number one, they need to have receivers. They need to get a receiver.
Lamar Jackson for. You're giving up Lamar.
That's what I'm saying. That can be a part of the Lamar Jackson trade. You can get a receiver and a quarterback with the Lamar Jackson trade. Meaning, what you could do is you can trade for a for a high pick, and then you're gonna have to settle with less draft picks, but at least you get a high pick. You get CJ Stroud, whoever the heck it is, right? And you get, you know, if you want to trade Commanders, get Terry McLaurin. I don't know, someone, right? You want to trade. So at the end of the day, you could do that, or you'll get Stetson Bennett later in the draft. You can probably get him in the second or third round. People are saying low undrafted. I don't know if that's true, but I think the Ravens can definitely get him later, right? So then you can trade to the Jets, trade to a mid-round team, a team with a mid-round pick, get 4 first-round picks, draft 2 receivers in the draft. You know what I would do, Meisty? You know what I would do? I don't know what the receiver market is like this year, but if it's decent and you have 2 good options at receiver, I would trade to the Jets or whatever team for 4 mid-first-round picks, get Stetson Bennett later in the draft, and draft 2 receivers. And then you can trade for Nuke Hopkins. I wouldn't be against it.
As long as one of those receivers are is a Georgia receiver, I'm with it, because we all know when you connect the guy with the guy who he was going to get you to the Super Bowl.
And the OC is Georgia.
You got the whole try.
Forget it. Georgia coming to Baltimore, normally Alabama.
Why are we not general managers, Rocky?
100%. Let's call
podcast. We could be general managers swiping bank money.
Let's call them up. Oh, you know what? This is what the Ravens should do. I just thought of a different thing. Okay, they should trade 4. They should get 4 first-round picks to someone in the mid rounds. Get Stetson Bennett, draft a receiver, and then trade a second-round pick. You don't even have to trade a first-round pick. Trade a second-round pick for Nuke Hopkins. Boom. You have Rashad Bateman. You have another first-round receiver. You have Nuke Hopkins, and you have a proven college quarterback. Love it. Boom.
Another one would be to sign Derek Carr, trade Lamar Jackson to the Raiders, and bring in Devontae Adams. To me,
so trade Lamar to the Raiders, get Devontae Adams.
And you're getting draft picks. And you're getting draft picks. Like, you're getting a draft pick and Devontae Adams. It's a lot of money, but you're talking about Devontae Adams, and you have Derek Carr, who's just a quarterback. He's good. He's an average quarterback.
Right. I mean, the Derek Carr to Devontae Adams thing didn't work out so much last year, but that wasn't because it was Derek Carr to Devontae Adams. That was because the rest.
When he threw to Devontae Adams, they were winning football games.
They were good. Yeah, they were good. No question. That was a good set of attack.
See, this is also the Jets have it similar to the Ravens here. The Ravens defense, to me, it's a little overrated. Don't get me wrong, but it's stacked. Like, talent-wise, the Ravens are stacked at defense. Every position at defense. It is just, and with Roquan, they just completely leveled up. If you could just get a guy to once, like I said with Stetson Bennett, just not turn the ball over. The defense will hold to so many little. There'll be no points scored against the Ravens, very little. Just like the Broncos last year. If they would have scored 9 more points a game, they would have been like 16-2, or whatever, 15-2. Like that's how crazy the number was for them. So you just need that. The Ravens defense does their thing. The Ravens offense does their thing. No turnovers. Let's play ball. Lamar Jackson turns the ball over. Tyler Huntley turns the ball over. Literally, turned the ball over in the biggest moment of his career.
They do. Lamar's had his turnover woes, no question. The problem with that is that, in today's NFL, you brought up the Broncos. The Broncos were the best defense in football through 12 games, but they only allowed, 15 points a game, 16 points a game. No. But at the same time, they still don't win games. Why? You need an offense today. Even if it's not a top-notch offense, defense only takes you so far nowadays. Defense does not win championships anymore. It barely wins games at the end of the day, and Broncos proved that this year, and many teams have proved that recently. The NFL is going in a different direction, as it has been for a decade now. And therefore, offense has to be prioritized. Defense is very important, but offense is far more important, and offense is way more essential to victory than defense is. So therefore, even though the Ravens have a great defense, and I love their defense, they need a good offense. They need a solid offense. But you're correct in that they don't need to have, Patrick Mahomes per se. They don't need to have Josh Allen throwing to Stephon Diggs per se. But they do need to have some sort of a manageable offense. And it could be that Bennett would provide that. Or it could be someone else would provide that. Derek Carr or Devontae Adams would provide that. I don't know. But right. You need an offense. You need an offense in today's NFL. There's no disputing that.
I find this to be my favorite thing about mock drafts. I'm a big anti-mock draft guy because I'll tell you what, it used to be that guys just made mock drafts as is. These are the teams. This is who they're going to pick. This is my prediction. Now the guys are mock trading. Oh, yeah, the Bears are going to trade it to this team. I'm like, dude, you don't know jack nothing, okay? Right. You didn't know nothing before. You definitely don't know what's going on in inside the teams. It's like, this guy's got the Colts get the number 1 pick. The Texans have the 5th pick. Like, this trade that. Like, nah, dude, everyone's just going to settle down. I'd be shocked if the Bears trade the pick. Even though I expect them to trade the pick, I'd still be shocked if they traded the pick away just because they haven't had that first pick in years. So I'm all for the Ravens not getting any of those top 4. Dude, when was the last time a top 4 quarterback drafted really panned out?
I mean, so far Trevor Lawrence has been pretty good.
He did okay. He beat the Chargers, and the Chargers just.
That was wait. This is we only had 2 drafts since the Trevor Lawrence draft, right?
Yeah, 2 drafts since then. I mean, Mahomes? What was Mahomes? Mahomes was it was 10. Right, yeah. but what number pick was he in? What number quarterback was he out of in the draft? Even was
Deshaun Watson was the first, and Mahomes was the second. 1 second, Mahomes.
Whatever it was, my point is that especially I don't know. It's been a long time since we've seen a quarterback get drafted and be like, oh yeah, this guy's been great. Joe Burrow and Trevor Lawrence in the recent years. Joe Burrow, I guess, is the answer to that. And Trevor Lawrence still has something to prove. He turned on at the end of the year, but he didn't. He didn't do anything in the playoffs that was super special. He got crushed in the second round, and he came back against the Chargers, who just charged themselves.
Mahomes was the second. Yeah, Trubisky was the first. So that was obviously a bust. And Mahomes was 10, and then Watson was 12. So Mahomes was picked ahead of Watson. High picks. Listen, quarterbacks picked on a high pick do pin out a lot more often than quarterbacks picked lower in the first round. That's all I'll say. Makes sense. They're picked higher. Yeah. But there is a decent chance they'll pin out. There's a decent chance they won't. But those are risks you have to take. You're taking a huge risk with Lamar Jackson too. To invest over $200 million, it's probably even a bigger risk than simply taking a high pick and drafting a quarterback and signing for $5 million a year. To invest $40 million more than that a year and lock into him for 5 years when he has not played for a month and a half the last 2 seasons and he has not developed as a passer in 4 years, that might be a bigger risk, Meisty. So there's risk involved either way. That's football. That's business. Yeah. There's risk. You know what I'm saying?
As we get closer to the draft, here's my question for you. We'll have to discuss it more then. But do you think a running back gets drafted in the first 2 rounds?
Might be the only option at this point. There's no other pick.
Like a running back? There's one running back. I saw a mock draft. The guy had the running back. The Ravens drafting a running back. I said, this guy needs to find a new day job.
The Ravens are not going to do that. But, I mean, the Ravens drafted J.K. Dobbins pretty high a few years ago in the second round.
I understand. Right. And they still have him, and he's still very good. And they're definitely not drafting a running back going into the 2023 draft. I'm like, dude, this guy needs to get a new job.
There's who's that the really talented running back everyone's been saying is going to go number, the first running back.
Talking about his name.
Oh, Bijan Robinson from Texas. That's it. A lot of people are saying he's going to go in the first round. He's like, Saquon Barkley. Yeah, speaking of Saquon Barkley, he's also a free agent. So, running backs, by the way, let's do another podcast about running backs because the fact that all the top free agents this year, literally, all the good running backs are free agents this year, and all the good running backs are in the draft this year shows you which direction the NFL is going in, away from signing running backs to big contracts. That's all I'll say. But we'll talk about that at a different time. Okay, we'll talk about that different time. But so we'll stop the conversation there, and we've been, talking about these things at length. These are the biggest headlines. There's so many little things to go through all the teams and what their needs are, and I think at some point we'll definitely try to get to that. Try to get to every single team, and even before the draft, what's the biggest need for every team? What's the biggest storyline surrounding every team? We like to try to hit every team because every team is there's something intriguing there, especially as these battles play itself out in training camp and practice and the draft and free agency. It's exciting. I think NFL free agency is more exciting than any other free agency. I'll go as far as to say that for sure. But anyway, okay, guys, we'll stop there. Remember to follow us on Twitter and check out my controversial tweet that I tweeted out and my controversial YouTube short and the Instagram reel. It's all the same video, just on different platforms. And check us out on all those platforms. And be sure to subscribe and comment.
Bijan Robinson, is that how you pronounce it? This guy in his mock draft hasn't gone to the Eagles, Morty. So hey, there's something. The Eagles drafted a running back.
Yeah, Miles Sanders ain't getting no money from the Eagles. I'll tell you that much.
No, he's not.
No, they'll just ride with Boston Scott. Anyway, we'll talk to that another time.
We'll see you guys next time.